Welcome back to Persephone Says. I am going to start this episode with this. I am Persephone and I am a recovering people pleaser. Now, I have to admit that this is something that I didn't even recognize in my own personality. And today we're going to talk about how people pleasing actually can hurt your business. Hard stop right there. It's something that when I started to really analyze my own behavior and then the implications that it had on my business, I was really pissed off with myself, simultaneously pissed off on the fact that I didn't even recognize this. And frankly, I only realized this so recently, as in my best friend Tara was like, how have you not known that about yourself? Like literally a couple weeks ago. I didn't. Sometimes we need mirrors being held up to our faces, I suppose. I know that in business, we want to be accommodating, right? And what I'm not suggesting here is that we aren't gracious, that we aren't, also being hospitable. But there is a big difference between saying yes to everything and then having you sacrifice your own processes, systems, the simultaneous issues with burnout, poor results. Like there is a tidal wave of things that happen when we just say yes to everything. I will also tell you that now, officially 6 years into business, this was at its peak probably 3 years ago. My business was growing. It was exploding. I didn't realize that a dollar isn't just a dollar. There are good dollars and there are bad dollars. And there are good clients and not every client is for you. Something I talk about here all the time, but it's something that I've had to personally learn the hard way in order to come to terms with it and understand, oh, that person actually made us not profitable. That person actually really screwed up my team dynamics or hurt, the culture. Like there are implications to people pleasing. All right. So we're going to go kind of step by step. So I wanted to set the tone. I think most of us know what people pleasing is, but for me, sometimes I need it defined. So come along with me. It is defined as pleasing as far as a business context is concerned, the compulsion to say yes and avoid conflict, over-deliver to avoid disappointing others. So what I have to say is this. I'm not someone who avoids conflict, which is why I didn't recognize that this was something that was plaguing me. I also need to distinguish this. There is a difference between intentional service versus compulsive approval seeking. I mean, I've been thinking about this so deeply. Think about that again. There is a difference between intentional service versus compulsive approval seeking. I do believe that being rigid is not luxurious. It is not hospitable. It is not how I run my business. However, there are certain things that I'm just not willing to tolerate. And I think where I personally have struggled with this is as we have been making more changes and creating infrastructure and systems that are scalable for my business and make my employees happy, which makes my clients happy. I have had some clients shit on me for creating a process. Now, I'm going to share several stories as we go along. And one was actually kind of recently where this client only wanted to speak on WhatsApp. Well, WhatsApp is great, except not my entire team can't be on WhatsApp. It means that their phones are going off at all hours. We operate in Slack. It's something that now is even in our contracts so that we have transparency. God forbid someone leaves or someone's on vacation or I need to jump in. There's so many different reasons why this is, but I was criticized for being too corporate, but we're small. Like we're still a small business. Just because it doesn't align with that person's function, if you're clear on communicating how you need to function in order to operate your best, and they don't want to, follow suit, that is okay for that client to not be ideal. It also was like one little sliver of a myriad of reasons why really bending our rules, really bending our time ended up actually causing overservicing with this particular client, which is never a good thing, frankly. Now, we specifically in the wedding industry are almost always coming from a place of yes. We never want to tell people no because we want people to be happy. But I don't think that you actually have to say those words. I think personally, I don't respond well to no. Shocking. I don't respond well to no. I respond very well to this isn't optimal, this isn't ideal, this isn't possible, but this is. If it's a reasonable solution, most people can reasonably get on board. And if the request isn't so outlandish, you can usually find a way to get, like I always say, like it can be a win-win situation for everybody, essentially. What I will also say is that in this pursuit of analyzing and overcoming people-pleasing, what I didn't realize was happening a couple years ago in my business is we were over-customizing or overcompensating and bending to that person's needs, timeframes, whatever, that it was actually creating so much chaos on the rest of my team and stifling our ability to scale properly, stifling my team's ability to put out content appropriately or to move quickly enough. I really believe that part of people pleasing can be solved with proactivity and over communication, but we're going to kind of go into it. So why do we find ourselves in a place of feeling used, abused, and, on the other side, on the receiving end of people pleasing? And also, if this was a drinking game, you might be really drunk after every single time I say people pleasing, but it's okay. We're just going to keep playing along. So root causes are often, rooted in childhood things, fear of rejection, wanting to be liked. I've discussed that. I didn't even realize that that was something that I really wanted or needed by employees and clients. I will continue to talk about it until I'm blue in the face. But I really felt so much pride when I had this collection of clients. Like, that was how I kept looking at it. And in the meantime, as I've been thinking about this, as I went client by client on those people who I thought were going to make or break my company, most of those people were actually breaking down a lot of the internal pieces that really made for the best output for our clients. Does that make sense? So because I wanted to be liked or have this person's approval or have them in our client roster or, family of brands, it was creating just this disproportionate level of control, like truly control. It created a disproportionate level of demand where, all the reasons why clients initially came to the media socialites was being diluted. Like, our expertise was diluted because we were just bending or doing whatever the client was saying. And I think that there is a healthy balance between the client is always right and also why the client is coming to you in the first place, right? They're coming for your expertise. You have to be firm on the why. If you can explain your reasoning and they still decide to go in a different direction, I'm okay with that. Like, I'm okay with that. And I don't believe that that's people pleasing, by the way. I think you just need to be very firm in your rationale. Again, it comes back to over communication. Also, why do people, fall into this trap? Imposter syndrome. There's also childhood conditioning. This often happens, I think, even more in women than men. I'm sure that I could do so many podcasts just on that alone. But I often found that a lot of my team was being beat down, literally, verbally, by the reverse, strong women beating down, strong women by other strong women. I just want to let that marinate. That's actually the worst situations that I have found myself in are by other women, not by men, generally speaking. I think actually, in my experience, that men respect when you meet them where they are too. Might have to cut that out. We'll see. All right. And, again, because a lot of us, I'm assuming a lot of you listening are in service-based industries as well. Like we find ourselves in this more than most because it is us. We are attached to the brand. We are the brand, et cetera. So, okay, what happens? What is the real cost of when we overdo this? Obviously, burnout and resentment. Now, it was maybe 3 years ago, maybe even longer than that. I was on a vacation with my family in Mexico. We were there for 5 days. It was one of the first vacations that we had taken after COVID. And this client was so angry that I wasn't responding at 5 a.m. when she was awake via text, or when she wanted responses at 12:30 in the morning. I was the problem because I conditioned her with a response. I would get so much anxiety opening my phone, it would paralyze me. It would paralyze my ability to work out because my phone was always blowing up by different people. And oftentimes I found that I was taking on whatever emotion that they were feeling. If they were angry, I was like not responding with anger, but taking it in. I am definitely an empath. I also realized that about myself, and holding that energy. And I blame myself for responding at all hours because I thought that was just good service. That's what you do. Like, the bigger the client, the faster the response. That means if they're calling you at 3 a.m. for something, you're picking up the phone. The fuck? Like, it's social media. It's digital marketing. It's websites. Like, it's not, curing fucking cancer, okay? So because I allowed for blurry boundaries, it led to blurry results. And then it started to really bleed onto my team. So as I started to not be as much into the day-to-day, I found my clients were hitting up my team at all hours of the night, expecting the same, where, again, now we've solved that problem where, like, this is where we communicate. This is how we're going to share content with you. This is the timeline for your website build out. This is the timeline for an event that we're going to produce with you. Like, everything is overly communicated so that we're covering our bases, but also we're setting expectations from jump. I think that once upon a time, again, going back to the every dollar is actually weighed differently. I was taking whatever dollar was in front of me because I thought that I had to, and I didn't necessarily always set expectations appropriately with my client or with my internal team. Now it's all documented. If you haven't spent time creating standard operating procedures internally and externally, this is one of the most valuable things. And I credit Vanny, who's our director of operations internally, on coming in and just so clear. It is so clear what you can expect. It's up to our clients to read it, right? It's up to our clients actually to absorb it, because we're always saying it. It's up to our clients to absorb it. But we are creating a mutually agreed upon key performance indicator. We are creating and hearing what success means to that client, because success means different things to different people. We are setting clear expectations on what they should anticipate from us, turnaround time. All of these things are still hospitable, but also allow for our clients to be able to receive that if you want the best out of us, this is how you're going to get the best out of us. It's not because we're juggling a billion clients. I actually don't do that anymore. That's a whole other pod. But it's really and truly because we need time. Nicole, who you'll meet at some point on my team, has always said to me, and she's been with TMS and worked with me for a very long time, but she's always said that we need the time and the space to think. Like, we aren't monkeys, dancing monkeys. And I really understood that deeply. Now, if you are like, la, 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 this isn't me, and I'm going to just keep doing whatever because, my clients love that I bend over backwards and break my back and like break my team every single time, then this one thing is directed for you. Last year, we started to track all of our hours. We started to track every client. We started to track it against whatever clients were paying. We started to create an understanding as far as how long things typically take, where we were over-servicing clients. Now, this is again where I learned the hard way. The clients who were breaking all standard operating procedures, and again, like, that means that they wanted to not have content build out. They wanted everything last minute. They wanted us to like just be ready and, be at their beck and call. We were so grossly over-servicing that client to the point where we were losing money every time, every single time. And no matter if it was a big number, it was usually on the smaller numbers. Like, fuck, you guys, I understand every client is a learning experience and blah, blah, blah. Like, I was a new entrepreneur. All of those things hold true here. You want to do right by your clients. You want them to love you and be loyal to you. And I can tell you, for all of the clients that I shattered every single fucking rule for, they were the least loyal. They did us like, it hurt. And then when I tried to when I did broach the subject of like, hey, we are way upside down on time here. Like, we need to either change the scope or, like, really get you into our systems. We can't be doing this over text message. Like, it's not efficient. That's when things went sideways. Like, when we started to retroactively try to create order. Well, at that point, at first, it always really stings, like, because, I either sacrificed that client or, it always sucks when someone is not working out. But also, in order for me as a business owner to properly scale my business, I can't have, one team member working only on one client when I expect that they need to be able to juggle a couple of clients, not 10, but 3 other people. Like, it just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense for my bottom line. And it really stifled the growth of my company, because when we were looking at, okay, this person is working on, these 3 clients because it's taking up all of their time, then I have to go hire more people to compensate for these clients who are actually causing me to bleed out. Like, this happens. It happens a lot. And I actually think in the near future, we're going to talk about finances and all of the things, like, in more detail, because I think it's really important. And I wish that I had listened, but also was pushed to assess, hours and time a bit more and take that seriously. Delayed growth. If someone had said that to me a couple years ago, I wouldn't have understood it, but I fully understand it now that I've had the time and the team to assess profitability. And if you don't have the time nor the team, that's why ChatGPT is so great, so that you just need to be tracking your hours and your hourly rate, and then look at how many hours you're actually spending on this client, And like, there was a client, guys, there was a client that was spending a ton of money, but when we broke it down, we were getting paid $15 an hour. Like, it makes me actually want to vomit. But it happens because you are, entranced by the sparkly lights. You're entranced by the dollars. I'm just speaking for myself. Like, that is definitely what happened. Or the desire to achieve. But usually that person is going to leave you. They're going to leave you high and dry. Lastly, the implications of all of this really created a lot of confusion and dysfunction in my team. Now, I think we're not going to put blanket statements on Gen Z, but Gen Z typically is a more boundaried generation. And I think that there is a difference between, again, intentionality and over-servicing and overdoing it. So this is something that I've been working really hard one-on-one with my team to understand the difference, where it's like, that what you're asking, as in the client knows that they're asking for something that's above and beyond the scope of what we're doing. And they're not saying like, charge me for it. I know I'm going over, charge me for it. Isn't that like what a good partner does? I'm less inclined to charge you for that time if it's every so often versus being like, yeah, this isn't just one-off. This is your constant. Like, you know what you're doing. It feels like an abuse of power. So again, I've been working really closely with my team, and when I'm thinking about flexibility, I'm thinking about, are we choosing to accommodate what this client is asking for because it makes strategic sense? Are we going to learn something by going above and beyond that we can actually take and apply to this person? There's a couple of key clients that we operate way outside of scope because we're able to test things on them. So I know that we're over-servicing, and I'm okay with that because I'm taking these learnings, and it's a conversation. It's like, just so you know, we're going to test this with you because I need you to then, in turn, like, I'm asking you in return to be a brand ambassador for me. Or if it's working really well, to say something, like write something. That is intentional, right? Or I'm choosing to be overly accommodating for this particular client because this brand is going to get us our next best client who's going to pay whatever it is that we need to charge. I'm like, pay. If you're not watching, you should. Now, the difference on the flip side is, being afraid to say the thing, the hard thing. Now, I was actually working with one of our VPs this past week who is very clear on over-servicing. It's very clear on, when we're being taken advantage of versus not. And it really came down to not realizing that the thing that needed to be done is to approach the client, and allow them to understand that you're hearing in the conversation a level of like a zing or frustration, and you still want them to be happy. Isn't it so much easier to pull that person aside and say like, hey, I noticed that you are a little tense. Like, give me some feedback. What's going on? I noticed that, this is happening on your team. Like, let's talk about it. People respond so much better when you just allow them to feel seen and heard, and then just meet them on a human-to-human level. I think we have been conditioned to be like, I am the service provider and you are the client and you're always right. And I can't come to you and be like, hey, what's going on? I think it builds more trust because shit happens. In all industries, shit happens. Things, get messed up. We need to change the path. Something that you wanted to work isn't working. Or it really is, but I think reading the room and adapting is so important, and just putting the conversation on the table appropriately will build the trust and frankly avoid the desire or falling back into old patterns. We had a client who just never seemed happy except when they were praising us on social media. So in our meetings, they always seemed miserable. And then they would always praise us on social, which is really nice. Don't get me wrong. But I also think it just like, I just can't, I just don't treat people like that. And so when I see it or receive it, or my team receives it, and it's very confusing to me. Like, I do thrive off of positive feedback. I think we'd all be remiss, for those of us who are in business or just doing business, to say that it doesn't help. But I don't understand why we can't, have a compliment sandwich at some points. Like, this is going really great. I need you to also focus on this. I am working with an agency for some, accounting things. And we've had hard conversations, and there were certain things that I needed them to understand that I was harsh about, but also said the good things, and also didn't want them to feel like I was going to throw them out just because these things weren't perfect just yet. I think we have to, again, have human dialogues. And I think that's really missing at this point. So now, all of that to be said, what do we do? How do we break these patterns? I do think assessing your time and doing that exercise, like I said, if you don't have an operations person, just putting it into ChatGPT is really important. So where are you exhausted? Where are you underpaid? Where are you resentful? Like, are you dreading every time your phone is dinging? Are you dreading every single time your Slack is pinging? Like, what's going on there and why? Like, is your heart sinking? Are you feeling like angry? I mean, I found myself in those patterns, and it's the worst. So what's going on? Are you being underpaid? Can you come up with a plan where you are getting a couple of other clients to then approach that one client who's really burning you out and saying like, hey, we're choosing to not proceed with this? I've had to do this more in the past year than I ever have before. And I'm proud of myself for that. I have said no to more money than I've ever said, because it was an abuse. Like, it was, people not paying on time. It was people knowing that we are over servicing them and not giving a fuck, but also not wanting to pay $1 extra. Things like that. It's not healthy. Like, yes, there are times where you need that experience. I'm not saying to throw that out. That's intentionality. But don't make that your norm, because it really does end up poisoning the well of great culture and great people. I think, saying that you are going to get back to someone, or you just not immediately responding to the text message of the demanding text message. I'm not saying to leave them on red the entire day, but if they're texting you at 5 a.m. and your day starts at 9, then you text them back at 9 and start your day. It's not rude to operate normally. Like, just because the world is so connected doesn't mean that you have to be beholden to when someone texts you that you have to respond in that moment. I think that's bullshit. I don't think that's hospitable. I think it's, sorry to keep using the word, but I really think that it's abuse of power. Being so clear on how you operate best and getting them to agree on how we will operate best. Put it in your proposal, have it on your website, have it in your contracts, restate it, ask for feedback, over communicate expectations. I often sound like broken records on calls with clients or with potential clients. And I am totally intentionally doing that so that everyone is so clear on what I expect from my team and what they should expect from my team and what I need from them in reverse too. So I'm super clear. That doesn't mean that they're not forgetting what we agreed to, but if it's a long-standing partnership with somebody, then it should actually not be that hard of a conversation. It's okay. I'm not a per my former email or what is it, per my email below. I don't like that shit. But it is okay to pick up the phone and say like, hey, we agreed upon this. Did something change? Like, did I misunderstand something or what's going on your team, and adjust those expectations? That to me is really the form and foundation of a great relationship. I think that if you really need help on confrontation, which by the way, I actually don't want to call it that. Scratch that word. If you need help with over communication to your clients or saying something that's making you uncomfortable, which is usually over communication and not confrontation, by the way, that is the reframe that I'm asking you to approach things at. If you are feeling uncomfortable or a level of discomfort on that, can you say like, hey, I need to get back to you on that? Is there someone that you can talk to? Is there almost a script of the way with which you're going to, an outline that you need to follow for a conversation? That's okay. That's like, that actually is really human. Not everyone feels cool and calm and comfortable leaning into the fire that they have frankly built up in their own brain. I found that we're working with this client. It's a really big partner of ours, and they've added some new people into the fold that don't have all of the information. So sometimes this person comes in hot. And so I went in, met with them personally, wanted to understand exactly what they want to accomplish. What's the most important thing that we can do to help them? What's the least important thing? What are they going to say? Like, if this happens, this is a great relationship. Getting their buy-in, that's just good business, right? That's not people pleasing. That's just understanding their wants and desires and aligning that with key performance indicators for the relationship. Okay. I'm going to end it with this. You are not being mean by protecting your peace. You are not being mean by holding space for your own processes and procedures. You don't need to even use those words like, this is our process. That isn't cute. I've said that before. Or this is this is a boundary that I'm going to need to enforce. Don't ever say that. It's just how you move like what you want from that person is directly reflected in how you move with them and towards them. It is absolutely worth assessing in your business, especially actually no matter how old or young your business is, no matter how your position within the company. Assess how you are treating other people, and are you overdoing it? Are you being intentional in that decision, or are you being stomped upon? Because then you're not actually operating at your best. All right. I want to hear from you. Have you found that just shifting to a place of over communication has really helped your business? If so, tell me, give me some stories. I want to hear from you. Drop them in the comments. Please follow and subscribe. And please share this podcast with someone that you love or that you think would benefit from hearing all of these anecdotes and stories. Until next time, see ya. All right. Thank you.